Listen closely. Be prepared. This week has been meticulously crafted, coded almost, to throw you off balance. Why? Because if you grasp the sheer magnitude of what's really unfolding beneath the surface right now, you wouldn't just play along. You'd be rewriting the entire game. Can you feel it? That subtle wrongness? Something's thick in the air, an energetic residue you can't quite name, and trust me, it is not just you. The week kicked off strangely, didn't it? That intense full moon peaked, theoretically releasing its pressure just hours ago, and yet something feels unresolved. There's this bizarre sensation, like the world is pushing forward on autopilot, but deep underneath, some fundamental gear is grinding, refusing to catch. Pay attention to that feeling. Don't brush it off. It's not random static, it's a signal, a frequency you are specifically meant to tune into right now. Because even though everything might feel murky, foggy, deliberately unclear, there is a profound reason pulsing behind this apparent chaos. This is the week where conventional clarity dissolves, where the usual signposts are deliberately veiled. But here's the twist. Direction still matters. Now, more than ever. The souls who dare to trust their inner compass now, the ones willing to take those steps even when the path ahead looks like pure shadow, those are the ones who will emerge on the other side, landing somewhere radically different. And believe me, different is where the future resides. Now, before we dive deeper, I need you to do something for me. Go down to the comments right now and type the word shifting. Just that one word. It helps me know you're here, you're engaged, and you're feeling this energetic current alongside me. Plus, it anchors your intention to navigate this shift consciously. Go ahead, do it now. Shifting. Okay, there's something incredibly strange happening astrologically this week. A pattern so subtle, so easily missed, that almost nobody is talking about it. But once I point it out, once you see the hidden architecture, you won't be able to unsee the cosmic chessboard. I promise I'll break down that specific hidden pattern later, so you absolutely need to stick around. It's crucial. But first, there's something even more immediate, something more personal you have to recognize. Because what if that weirdness, that unsettling static you're feeling, what if it isn't even entirely yours? Think about it. The energy pouring in this week, these powerful alignments, they are undeniably calling you forward, pulling dormant parts of your potential, your future self, into the light. But here's the hard truth. Not everything, and not everyone, in your current reality is ready to let that evolved version of you emerge. You're changing rapidly, and that creates tension. An invisible pressure in the space around you, something you might feel but struggle to explain. Maybe it shows up as sudden, bone-deep tiredness you can't shake. Maybe it's scattered thoughts, an inability to focus. Maybe it's just a strange, pervasive heaviness clinging to your aura. But what if the source isn't within you? What if you're picking up on the psychic static of someone else feeling your transformation, feeling you slip away from the version of you they were comfortable with, the version they were attached to? They don't know how to process their discomfort with your growth, and sometimes their fear, their resistance, their energetic clinging echoes back into your field. Understand this. Sometimes the mess you feel isn't yours to clean up. It's the reverberation, the spiritual echo of someone else losing access to the frequency you use to broadcast. This week is absolutely charged with this dynamic of distance. We see Mercury, the mind, and the moon, the heart, both reaching points in their orbits, aphelion for Mercury, apogee for the Moon, points where they are literally drifting further away, farthest from the Sun, farthest from the Earth. That distance isn't just astronomical, it's energetic. It creates pressure, a spiritual pressure test. The universe is watching intently, asking you, can you keep walking your path, even when the ghost of who you used to be is being held onto tightly by someone else? Can you distinguish your own unease from the projected fears of others? Because what's about to unfold in the coming days, you need to be acutely aware of this distinction. The incoming energies will rigorously test the energetic space around you, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And if you're not watching with sharp, discerning eyes, you could easily mistake someone else's panic for your own soul's warning. Don't fall into that trap. Let's look closer. The Moon hit apogee today, its farthest point from Earth, just hours after that intense full moon climax. There's a strange, almost unnatural silence in the cosmic field right now, isn't there? It's like the sky itself is holding its breath after a massive emotional downpour. That full moon, it dredged something up, didn't it? Something deep, maybe something unexpected, raw, vulnerable. And now, in the immediate aftermath, the moon is physically and metaphorically slipping away. It's like it dropped off a heavy load of emotional baggage right at Earth's doorstep and is now retreating, leaving us to sort through it. You might have felt that flood, tears, overwhelming realizations, feeling cracked wide open, maybe just profoundly seen or deeply exhausted in the last day or so. But today, notice the shift. There's a sudden coolness, isn't there? A strange emotional distance. It's like something intense was confessed in a moment of utter vulnerability, and now the room feels cold, awkward. This isn't just you imagining things. This is a classic energetic pattern. Intense emotional release, followed by separation. After the purge comes the pause. And in that pause, people start to feel the void, the emptiness left behind. This is what I call a spiritual echo. The main event, the full moon peak, has passed, but its impact continues to ripple outwards. And sometimes, the feeling you're grappling with now isn't the original pain or release itself. It's the grief for what was finally let go. You might feel ungrounded today, adrift, maybe strangely nostalgic for something you can't even define. Or perhaps you feel like you've forgotten who you were just before that emotional wave crashed over you. There can even be a kind of spiritual vertigo in moments like this, a dizziness that isn't physical, but soul deep, a sudden, jarring awareness that a fundamental piece has shifted, and you didn't fully realize how tightly you were gripping it until it started floating away. Letting go doesn't always feel like immediate relief. Sometimes it feels like mourning the perceived necessity of what you carried for so long. This moment, this cool distance, it's not meant to feel neatly resolved. It's meant to feel real, raw. And the universe is watching, observing your response. Now that it's drifting just out of reach, what are you truly willing to release? Because it's only when things pull away that we get to see with stark clarity whether they were ever truly meant to anchor us. But just as you start to make sense of what's leaving, just as you begin to process that emotional distance, the mind starts playing its own dangerous games. Beware, someone is lying. And on April 16th, that someone could very easily be you, lying to yourself. This is critical. April 16th is not a day for clear answers. It's a day designed for illusions, that masquerade as profound truths, and frankly, that's far more treacherous. Why? Because Mercury, the planet of logic, communication, and rational thought, aligns perfectly with Neptune, the planet of dreams, illusions, spirituality, but also deception and fog. When these two forces collide, reality itself gets slippery. Thoughts blur into emotions. Intuition gets dangerously tinted with personal projection and wishful thinking. Things that seem blindingly obvious, crystal clear insights, they are often the furthest things from objective truth under this influence. Consider April 16th, a cosmic test of perception. Fail it, and you risk falling down a rabbit hole, investing your energy and belief into a reality, a narrative, a relationship dynamic that was never authentically yours to begin with. This is where things get really tricky. People might think they're receiving clear signs from the universe, divine guidance dropping straight into their minds, but under this Mercury-Neptune haze, they might just be hearing their own deepest fears, their own desperate hopes, echoing back at them, dressed up in spiritual language. Others might say things they don't truly mean, caught up in the emotional fog. Or worse, they might passionately believe something in the moment, making promises or declarations only to completely contradict themselves hours or days later. Not because they're intentionally malicious, but because they are genuinely lost in the Neptunian mist. And that fog is thick. It might tempt you to read into someone's silence and definitively decide it means rejection, or to hear praise and immediately suspect manipulation, or to receive a sudden spiritual download that feels incredibly urgent and important, only to realize later it was your own anxiety wearing a cosmic disguise. April 16th is the kind of day where you could swear on your life you know exactly what's going on, until the fog lifts and you realize your compass was pointing directly at a mirror the entire time. Now, I'm not telling you this to scare you. Not at all. This knowledge is meant to sharpen you, to make you incredibly discerning, because in weeks charged like this one, the real spiritual test isn't whether you blindly believe everything that pops into your head or everything you hear. The real test is whether you cultivate the wisdom to pause, to breathe long enough to ask the crucial questions. Whose voice is this, truly? Is this intuition, or is it fear? Is this guidance, or is this projection? Does this feeling, this thought even belong to me? Master that pause, and you navigate the fog unscathed. There's a palpable restlessness woven into the fabric of this week, an undercurrent of distance. And it continues. On April the 17th, Mercury itself reaches aphelion, its farthest point from the Sun in its orbit. Think about this. That's two crucial celestial bodies signaling withdrawal now, just days apart. First, the Moon pulled away from Earth, apogee, creating that emotional echo chamber. Now Mercury, the messenger, pulls away from the Sun, the source of illumination and clarity. Both are stepping back, creating this strange, expansive, almost hollow feeling around us. What does that mean for you down here on Earth? You might feel mentally scattered, like your thoughts are running 5 steps ahead or lagging 3 steps behind the present moment you're actually living in. Conversations might feel slightly off, mismatched. You know those moments? When someone finally texts back, but it's just a second after the window where you needed their input? Or when you open your mouth to say something important, and the perfect words just evaporate? That's Mercury at aphelion. It's like your mind decided to go for a long, wandering walk, but forgot to leave a note saying when it would be back. But here's a perspective shift. Some insights arrive late on purpose. The universe sometimes delays the signal to see if you're still present, still listening, even when the line seems quiet. This isn't faulty wiring, it's a feature of this specific energy. Clarity wants to come through right now, but it's traveling a longer distance. It's slower, more subtle. It demands patience. It requires interpretation, not just instant understanding. Mercury here isn't shouting through a megaphone, it's whispering from the far side of the field. And yes, that can be incredibly frustrating, especially if you're seeking immediate answers or confirmations. You might feel like you're perpetually waiting for a reply, for a sign, for the green light, for that missing piece of information, and nothing seems to be arriving on time. But the delay itself is part of the message. It's teaching you how to listen without the desperate need for instant gratification, how to sit comfortably with the question instead of scrambling frantically for any answer, even a wrong one, how to trust the unfolding process. Because this week, truth travels a longer, more winding path. But trust this, when it does finally arrive, it will land with pinpoint accuracy, exactly where and when it's meant to. So if you've been wrestling with a big decision, trying to force clarity, hold on. Give it space, give it breath. Because as Mercury begins its apparent climb back, climbing higher in the sky, something profound starts to shift. The signal gets stronger, the message draws closer, and on April 19th, it finally touches down. Listen, when Mercury rises, the universe speaks. April 19th is not just another sunrise, it's a celestial broadcast. On this day, Mercury reaches its highest altitude in the morning sky, its brightest, clearest, most visible point after those days of pulling away, of feeling distant and foggy. And that carries profound significance for those who are attuned, for those who are paying attention. Think of April 19th as a delivery window, a sacred message zone. It's possible that before you even fully open your eyes that morning, your spirit, your higher self, might already know something crucial. There could be a dream that lingers just long enough upon waking to leave a single, potent sentence echoing in your mind. A specific word, a number sequence, a forgotten name surfacing from nowhere. Or maybe it's the very first thing that catches your eye when you glance at your phone. The time, a news headline, a seemingly random social media post from someone you haven't thought about in years. Do not brush these things off as coincidence on April 19th. This morning is a hall of mirrors reflecting your inner truth. What you notice first, what grabs your attention with that little spark of resonance, that is very likely what your soul has been patiently trying to communicate all week long through the fog and the static. Some people will experience this as a sudden, exhilarating wave of clarity, like thick fog instantaneously lifting from their minds. For others, it might be far more subtle, a quiet, unshakable inner knowing settling into their bones, a strange sense of peace descending where chaos reigned just days before. Either way, the message probably won't scream. It will likely whisper. And only those who have cultivated stillness, those who have learned to listen beneath the noise during the preceding days, will truly grasp its meaning and its power. And here's the beautiful twist, the confirmation. This message, this clarity, arriving on the 19th, it likely won't be something entirely new or out of the blue. It will probably be something you already suspected, a gut feeling that's been nagging at you, an intuitive hit you felt earlier in the week, but doubted, dismissed, or couldn't quite articulate. That's what this entire week has been building towards. That's the purpose behind the confusion, the disconnection, the delays, the silence. Because this profound, soul-aligned clarity, it only truly lands, only truly integrates, when you've demonstrated that you can sit patiently, trustingly, in the static without panicking. So, set your intention the night before April 19th. Ask for clarity. Open all your senses that morning. Not just your eyes and ears, but your feeling sense, your knowing sense. Because Mercury is rising, bringing illumination after the distance. And if you are truly listening, your next step is about to reveal itself with undeniable precision. Now, remember at the beginning, I told you there was something incredibly strange, a hidden pattern this week that almost no one noticed. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. This is it. The code is cracked. 3 celestial bodies, 3 distinct acts of departure, 3 experiences of distance, all peaking, all making their presence felt intensely within the same week. First, the moon, representing our emotions, our inner world, our subconscious tides, begins its drift. On April 13th, it hits apogee, its farthest point from Earth. Just days later, compounding this feeling of remoteness, it also reaches aphelion around April 16th, its most distant point from the Sun. Then, Mercury, the planet of mind, communication, logic, joins this cosmic pattern, pulling away to its own aphelion on April 17th. Do you see it now? This isn't random. This is not a coincidence. It's a meticulously orchestrated, energetic pattern, a sequence you perhaps weren't meant to consciously notice, but your soul felt it, and now your mind understands it too. Something fundamental, on multiple levels, was backing away, and in doing so, it felt like it was dragging your emotional clarity, Moon, your spiritual confidence, Moon relative to Sun, and your mental focus, Mercury, along with it. What happens psychologically, spiritually, when the 3 bodies most intimately tied to our emotional landscape, our core illumination, and our mental processing all pull away simultaneously? You might feel profoundly disconnected, untethered, like your heart is operating from a remote location, your thoughts aren't quite syncing with reality, and your spirit is echoing in a room that suddenly feels vast and empty. This is energetic distance in motion. But here's the most crucial piece, the deeper wisdom hidden within this pattern. This isn't about breakdown. It's not about loss. Not really. It's about creating space. Because, and this is the game-changing twist, when things pull away, when the noise recedes, when the constant chatter and emotional intensity subside, they create room. And in that sacred, newly created space, you can finally hear yourself again. Your own authentic voice, your own inner knowing. This week isn't ultimately about what's being removed or taken away from your life. It's about what can finally rise to the surface, what insights can finally emerge when all the external noise, all the internal static, all the confusing projections step back. So if you've been feeling empty, adrift, floating, detached, confused, reframe it immediately. It is not failure. It is a cosmic reset. You are simply in the profound, potent pause between waves. Cherish this space. And in this space, pay attention. A tiny thought out of nowhere. A weird symbol flashing in your mind's eye. A moment of absolute silence that somehow hits you harder than any sound. It will mean something. The universe whispers in the strangest, most personal ways during weeks like this. Don't expect grand gestures, booming voices from the heavens, or obvious flashing neon signs this week, especially before the 19th. This is a time where the smallest, most insignificant seeming thing might knock the wind right out of you with its resonance. It could be a single word someone says casually in passing, a recurring symbol you keep seeing that makes no logical sense, yet a bizarrely intense sense of déjà vu while mindlessly scrolling your phone, a song lyric that leaps out and feels like it holds a secret about your future, and you'll feel it, deep, profound, almost disproportionate. You might ask yourself, why does this tiny, random thing feel so incredibly big right now? Because it's not about the physical size or logical importance of the trigger moment. It's about the specific frequency it's carrying. Some signs are deliberately small because they are coded only for you. They're whispered in your unique soul language, bypassing the rational mind entirely. They wouldn't make sense explained to anyone else. So please, please, do not talk yourself out of these moments. Don't dismiss them with, "Oh, I'm just overthinking," or "That's just a weird coincidence." When you feel that strange electric spark of recognition in your chest, that zing of knowing that transcends logic, listen. And finally, do not panic if things feel too quiet at times this week. Don't freak out if you reach out mentally or spiritually for guidance, for your usual sense of connection, and you get nothing. Silence. Static. This isn't abandonment. It's not proof that you're disconnected or doing something wrong. It's a higher-level test. The universe, your guidance system, sometimes steps back deliberately. It wants to know, can you keep walking your path even when the obvious signs stop appearing? Can you trust the journey even when the road ahead isn't brightly lit and clearly marked? Can you rely on the knowing within you rather than constantly seeking validation outside of you? This kind of profound silence, this apparent withdrawal of external validation, it builds something incredibly real and resilient within you. It transforms tentative intuition into unshakable faith. It forges spiritual leaders, not just followers waiting for the next instruction. So if you feel ghosted by your spirit team, by the universe, by your usual flow of signs this week, just smile. Know this, they haven't left. They are watching, closer than ever, holding space with deep love. And the choices you make, the steps you take, fueled by your own inner conviction during this quiet time, those actions will echo far louder, far more powerfully in the cosmos than any external sign ever could. If you're still here, watching, listening, feeling this, thank you. Thank you for your energy, your presence, your willingness to explore these deeper currents with me. If this resonated, if it sparked something within you, please consider clicking that subscribe button. Your support truly means the world and allows me to continue sharing these insights. What was your biggest takeaway from this? Did you feel that weirdness? Did you recognize the pattern of distance? Share your experiences, your feelings, your moments of clarity in the comments below. Let's create a space of shared understanding through this powerful shift. Until next time, navigate this week with awareness. Trust that inner voice, even when it whispers, and remember the power resides within the pauses. Take care, stay tuned, and subscribe for more content designed to awaken and empower.